My lab focuses primarily on inhaled drug delivery, but we're interested in developing new therapies for lung infections, as well as just making inhaled therapies more cost-effective, more reproducible. If, like, you're administering that drug orally or via IV, it's really the whole body is being exposed to it, and you can end up having a lot of side effects in some of your other organs. So the benefit of lung delivery is that you can get very high drug concentrations, like right at the site of infection, and avoid some of that systemic exposure. We were kind of getting to the point where we have these bacteria out there that are resistant to basically any kind of antibiotics. So one way that we can overcome this without necessarily having to develop a whole new drug molecule is to identify existing drugs that maybe have some kind of effect against these bacteria. So they were initially developed for one purpose, but through screening studies, we've identified that they can actually kill the bacteria. As part of like our preliminary data, we identified a couple of compounds that when you combine them with existing antibiotics, they're actually able to overcome that drug resistance. So the idea is that we're going to combine it with antibiotics that are only available intravenously, create particles that have some kind of antibiotic with this shell around them that contains this drug that can basically bust through the resistance. And we develop a particle in the form that it can actually be inhaled. We're almost getting into like physics and engineering at that point, because we need to make sure our particles are aerodynamic, that they can fly through the air, that they're going to deposit into the lungs. And our intent is to create a platform that you could, substitute any kind of antibiotic in that you want. I'm very interested in like mycobacterial infections like tuberculosis. So my dream would be to like create a product that can basically like overcome all of the issues with current tuberculosis therapies. So it's like very easy to use. It's a lot faster. So now they have to take these drugs for, months and months and months, and there's so many side effects and there's so much stigma attached to it. So I think like, the impact that I hope to make is just like developing like more cost-effective therapies that are safer to use, that are easy to use, and that could be like distributed, on a global scale. After I finished my PhD, I worked at a startup for a year. I was trying to bring some of the projects that I was working on to market. It was like an inhaled antibiotic for tuberculosis and other lung infections. I was primarily focused on getting us to the point where, we had gotten all of like our preclinical data, animal data. What do we need to do to get it into humans? Because at that point, you just kind of want to have someone else acquire it. So it was really fun. And I feel like entrepreneurship and running the company is very similar to what I'm doing now. Like being a PI is kind of like being a CEO of a small company, just working with a younger set of people. Firstly, it definitely like helps like confidence in my ability, I would say, like, because when you're very first starting out, it's very difficult to get funding because you're competing against people that are like really well established, and you just are not at the place that you have that preliminary data. So it was like a really nice like win, I would say, just to like, have some validation that yes, there is interest in my ideas. And I think like it's a very unique funding mechanism because you're just competing against people that are like at the beginning level also. So that was really nice. And I think like, the idea is that we're using this funding to generate the pilot data that we need, particularly like animal pilot data, which tends to be more expensive, to be able to go after the bigger NIH grants. So it's a really nice like seed funds. There's like not a whole lot of restrictions on it, which is nice. And yeah, it's just it was just really nice confidence boost. Yeah. I just really want to establish myself like in the inhalation community as an expert. That's my aspiration, is to be the expert in the room. for me, I'm just trying to really focus on defining like success, like in my terms, just in terms of like trying to be a good mentor to the people in my lab, making sure like I'm, working in a research area that I feel very passionate about and that I feel is going to like really have a global impact, particularly in countries like outside of the US. So that's what I try to keep in mind, like on the difficult days, I guess, is just trying to like remember why I'm here. Because I do feel like to to be a PI like in an academic lab, like it's a lot of stress and you kind of have to like I could probably have a less stressful job. But you almost have like a higher calling, I guess, that you're trying to adhere to. So you just have to keep that in mind.